I laughed louder than I've laughed in a long time when I saw this article. The fringe right's obsession with Andrew Yang. Now, you may be wondering, what does this have to do with Joe Rogan? Well, as you know, Joe Rogan recently had Andrew Yang on his show, and now we get the glorious article from Axios, which Axios tends to be kind of okay, but they've actually likened Joe Rogan to Richard Spencer. Yes, I kid you not. First of all, let's talk about how insane this graph is. And I want to make a disclosure, just for the record, so you don't get mad at me. Full disclosure, I have donated to Andrew Yang, and I've talked about it in the past. I just want that to be clear as we talk about the issue of Andrew Yang, and you understand my position on the issue. First, let's jump down and talk about Joe Rogan being far right and why. They say, long-shot Democratic candidate Andrew Yang has also emerged as a popular subject among fringe conservatives, mainly because of his universal basic income platform that he's created in response to the threat of automation on the workforce and jobs. Storyful journalist and analyst Kelly Jones says these actors at first embraced Yang thanks to support he has garnered from far-right influencers like Richard Spencer and Joe Rogan. Congratulations, buddy. Joe, you've made it. Although this isn't the first time someone's tried claiming that center-left and actually kind of socialist Joe Rogan is a far-right influencer. What the hell does this even mean anymore? I don't know. I don't. Earlier today, a guy from BuzzFeed told me that right-wing means that you want to use the power of the state to suppress minority voices. Here was a white BuzzFeed employee telling, gosh darn it, mixed-race Tim Pool that I was wrong. It's like their ideology is backwards and makes literally no sense, and they have no idea what they're talking about. Well, I asked him where that definition came from, and he couldn't tell me. Are they implying that Joe Rogan is trying to use the power of the state to suppress minority groups? That's insane. Joe Rogan loves talking about universal basic income. That's why I said sort of socialist, right? Because universal basic income is essentially a government program to distribute wealth evenly among the people. I do not believe universal basic income can work as it is currently being proposed. I do like the fact that Andrew Yang has an extremely comprehensive platform talking about various opinions on certain ideas. And I think he's addressing some of these problems, which I like. I don't think he'll ever get it done. Now, the Yang crew is going to get mad at me, but sure, it is what it is. Now, let's talk about the insanity of calling, the fringe right. First of all, sure, 4chan, Gab, and 8chan, the fringe right. I don't necessarily know what makes them right-wing necessarily, especially if they're supporting Andrew Yang, who is like one of the most socialist people running. Interestingly, Andrew Yang I would not call far left, which might blow your minds. Again, I told you in the beginning, I'm biased, but there's a reason why I donated to him. Most of his policies are like center left. He's supported free speech. He's supported border security. He's called unchecked immigration a bad idea. He's rather centrist on a lot of issues. And the universal basic income thing, while it is a far left proposition, for one, I don't think would actually ever work or happen. But it's actually an attempt to respond to automation. Now let's talk about this list. It may seem like Mr. Sanders over here is almost as popular as Andrew Yang. However, let's look at this. The graph they use makes them all seem very close to each other, except they're going by orders of magnitude, which I think is absolutely inappropriate. They should not have done that. First of all, they called Joe Rogan far right, which is damn near insane. But more importantly, and they're using Storyful's chart. My God, look how ridiculous this is. The media is trash. Have I ever told you that? Have you ever come to my channel and heard me talk about how the media is trash? First of all, Marianne Williamson. I have no idea who that is. 10 posts. 10. There were 10 posts about this person. 9 on Gab and 7 on 8chan. That warrants being included. Look, it looks like she's got a third of Andrew Yang. Oh, I'm sorry. That's 17,100. 623, 170. The amount of posts, mentions of Andrew Yang on 4chan is in 17,000, and Bernie Sanders barely breaks 2,000 on his highest, which is Gab. And this is probably him being smeared on Gab. That's the other thing. They call Joe Rogan far right and liken him to Richard Spencer, and then mention Andrew Yang is being talked about on 4chan. But what they don't mention is that half of that is them ragging on Yang. Yes, there are a ton of posts about Yang on 4chan. There's a lot of conspiracy theories as to why that's happening. But this is how the media frames things to trick you. And I've talked about this extensively in the past. Earlier this morning, I made a video where I highlighted information from the Anti-Defamation League. In their report, in one of their reports, they said that they show, since Trump took office, extremist violence, extremist killings are down. However, they didn't actually frame it. It shows a graph. It says 2016 to 2017, a huge drop-off in extremist killings. That would mean Obama's last year saw a massive amount of extremism, and Trump's first year saw a much smaller amount. Now let's talk about framing. Here's how I could frame it. Since Trump started campaigning, there has been a massive spike in extremist violence and killings. And that makes it sound like it's Trump's fault. Or I could say, since Trump took office, there's been a steep decrease in extremist killings to make it seem like Trump has actually helped stop the violence. Or we can look to what they're doing right now with trying to claim, like they're putting Richard Spencer and Joe Rogan's names next to each other. What does this do? It implies that they're in any way like each other, or if even like they're such opposites. It's ridiculous. But guilt by association. Now people are going to hear far-right influencer and they're going to say, I don't know who Joe Rogan is. A lot of people know who he is. Some people don't. And they'll look it up. They'll look up these names and go, whoa. Will they see something to clarify the issue? More importantly, what they do here is the fringe right's obsession with Andrew Yang almost makes it seem like Andrew Yang is in any way associated with them. But that's just not fair. He's just a guy with center-left policies and actually some rather far-left plans, universal basic income. Look how the graph is built, though. This is how they trick you. It makes it seem like Bernie Sanders is also popular, but he's got around like 1/18th, 1/17th of what Andrew Yang is getting in mentions. But look at this chart. Look how they frame this. This is fucking bullshit. You got me swearing now. I hate the media. I really do. They are full of it. Let's read what they say. The alt-right communities that circulated millions of political memes and conspiracy theories last election cycle are working behind the scenes to test new messages and memes that will resonate on big platforms out of 2020. Why it matters. Most of the conversations happening on Gab, 4chan, and 8chan involve finding themes or messages to bolster the Trump candidacy or to sow divisions among Democrats, according to a new research from social media and news intelligence agency Storyful. Storyful, my understanding, is owned by Fox News, by the way. How a Storyful journalist and analyst is calling Spencer and Rogan far, I have no idea. The big picture. Jones notes that a possible reason is that fringe right communities try to elevate or highlight Democrats with no shot in an attempt to splinter the Democratic Party and make it harder for one candidate to emerge strong enough to take on Trump. While Andrew Yang has not raised nearly as much money as Beto O'Rourke, what makes Beto think he's going to beat Trump when he couldn't even beat Ted Cruz and Trump beat Ted Cruz? Beto, you're not going to win. Beto also wants to get rid of the Electoral College, which is another video I'm going to do in a little bit, because these people are nuts and don't understand how civics 101. Please, can you go to school and just understand? Like, actually, I'll take that back. I didn't go to school either. Can you Google search various articles and academic research on the Electoral College to understand why it's important? Be smart. Similar tactics were used during the 2018 midterms. Jones notes the popular hashtag No Men Midterms was used in memes that were made to look like they came from Democrats, while they actually came from 4chan in an effort to sow division in the party. No, it actually sounds like, if anything, there's a lot of people who are just pushing up Andrew Yang. Keeping in mind, the memes helped Trump. Why wouldn't they help Yang today? They will. Another article, the more press written about Yang, the better. They say that Trump partly won because he got $5 billion in free press from all of the outrage around him. Everyone couldn't stop talking about him, and it made him a frontrunner. The same could be true for Yang. Now, personally, I'm going to say this. I don't think Yang can win. I just would like to see him on the debate stage, as well as Tulsi Gabbard, to talk about their ideas, to get them in the marketplace of ideas, which I think everyone can agree. It would be good to hear them out, especially when they talk about censorship, anti-war, and the threat of automation. You know, a lot of people on the right are not going to be a big fan because of universal basic income. But let me say this to those who don't like Yang. I'm not saying he's right in policy, but I'm saying the discussion about automation is extremely important, especially as it pertains to Donald Trump. A lot of people who lost their jobs lost to automation. Not everybody, but a lot of people in certain districts that voted for Trump. Machines took their jobs. Now now a lot of people, the opioid crisis is tied to unemployment. And this is resulting in someone like Trump trying to come in and bring these jobs back. Maybe that's maybe you think that's the better solution. Maybe you're right. At any rate, I think it's important that someone is talking about the people who have been, have lost their manufacturing jobs, who are from middle America. Yang is doing that too. And maybe that's why a lot of people on these platforms are talking about him so much, because he's bringing up the issue. Does it mean he's right? No, not at all. It's the issues that I think are important. And we should have a conversation about automation, because look at who's keeping their jobs. It's young fringe activists working in media writing blog posts about Brad Pitt's junk getting paid $40,000 a year, which blows my mind. Meanwhile, the dude who actually, coal mines, for instance, is being told learn to code. We need to have conversations about the changing of industry and automation, and that's why I think it's good to have these conversations in the public. They say, go deeper. Andrew Yang wants the support of the pro-Trump internet. I'm not sure that's true. I think they said it was sabotage, but, now it's threatening to devour him by BuzzFeed reporter. Well, I actually have that pulled up, but I'm not gonna. It's silly BuzzFeed nonsense, so I'm not gonna read into it. We'll leave it where it is. I don't know. The media is insane. We'll leave it there. I got another video coming up in a few minutes about the Electoral College and why it's so damn important. I'll see you in a few minutes.